Not too long ago, I turned 21 years old, and I feel like I'm only just learning how to be human. The majority of my life I've spent in hiding, tying myself into patriarchal restraints. Conformity would bore me into solitude. The taste of blood had grown all too familiar. To bite my tongue was to keep myself out of view. Growing up, I got made fun of. A lot. Believe it or not, the jiggle of my arms and thighs solidified me as a target, while my arm hair laced me into a reality of self-doubt. The school bathroom became my personal sanctuary, while the back of the classroom became my very own mortuary. Childlike wonder plundered under the guise of getting older. Toothy smiles decayed into shy grins, while belly laughs shrunk into exposed ribs. A needle and thread cannot amend the damages left behind by these feeble attempts to blend in, but powders and creams seem to do just fine. The physical scars from a time of insecurity and shame are unfortunately lifelong companions. But the mental scars must not live with me forever. I have beaten and bruised and starved this body. But in order to heal, we must first examine the wound. I think a lot of my personal insecurities came out in middle school. I remember sitting in my science class, and this one guy would spend so long, longer than anyone ever should, pointing out my arm hair. He would always be like, "Have you ever heard of Venus? Have you ever heard of that brand? You should try it out. You should shave." And that set me into so long of exclusively wearing long sleeve shirts. I was so self-conscious of myself in middle school. And I think that maybe that is where that initially happens for a lot of people. I think that girlhood, like a time before insecurity, is something really precious, something sacred almost, before society kind of comes and jiggles with that, jiggles with your sense of self.
It was junior high. I went to a junior high, grade 7, 8, and 9. But interestingly enough, it was around socioeconomics. It was around, because I attended a middle school, a junior high with a lot of rich kids, and I lived in government housing, not too far from where we are here, and I had a lot of shame. Yeah. That's what it comes down to, like whether it's shame about your body, shame about things you can't control, and a fear of not belonging and being, found out or being ousted because you don't fit in. Like that's where it's still very sharp, that feeling of insecurity.
In terms of insecurity, this doesn't have to be physical. It can be, part of your personality, part of who you are. Is there something that you really sort of maybe didn't like about yourself? For me, it's my arms. I hated them. Now they're covered in tattoos, so I proudly flaunt them everywhere.
Right. I love that.
I was wondering if you had something like that, like if you had that thing that kind of wore down on you, but now as you've gotten older, you can kind of share it with the world proudly.
Sure. Yes. My sexuality was something that, I struggled with, I guess. Growing up in the church, it was obviously frowned upon, and it wasn't until like my second year of teaching, so I was like, my 20s, before someone would say I was a late bloomer, but before I could sort of identify what was going on for myself. And but all through junior high and high school, I just felt different. I guess that there's just a part of my brain lately that's been thinking, well, there might be a time when that changes. Like, no one's looking at my 80-something-year-old mother and thinking she's 35. Like, at some point, I'm going to maybe start to look my age or whatever, and I have to be okay with that. The bouncy castle, I don't know if you remember that demonstration that I used to do on the first day of school, but the bouncy castle was my jam, and the reason I loved it was because you could do things in that space that you would never try on the pavement. That's the energy of a soft landing, right? And so, or a safe place. And so I just want my younger self to know that, like, you can have a life that feels like that if you surround yourself with the right people, if you follow your heart, if you take chances, you're going to have that soft landing, and that will make all the difference to how much joy you get to experience while you're here. Knowing younger you and knowing you today, I can say 100% younger you would be, I think, in awe. I think there would be some awe in there, and wow, yeah.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me.
Having people who are authentically their age matters right now. Before I turned 50, I actually auditioned and lost jobs that were intended for 50 plus. I talk to younger actors all the time, and they are amazed at how often I audition, because I am hitting a demographic that is getting close to retirement, that has money, and that advertisers are starting to realize can really impact purchase decisions. So my career probably is even more busy than somebody who's half my age, because there's more opportunities for me. There's also less of me, right? Because when you're 25, the market is saturated with young actors who all want the same roles. At my age, people have moved on. They're at different places in their life. Oh, the stigma with aging.
Yes, the stigma with aging. Do you think your career makes you kind of face that more, just because you're in the spotlight? So many people are seeing you.
Actually, I can count on one finger how many negative comments I've had since I chose to go gray when I was 45 years old. And it was a gentleman who was not my husband who expressed an opinion, and I thanked him for it. He thought it was going to make me look older. And that was fine. That was his opinion. If anything, it's the opposite. I get comments from women all the time saying, oh my gosh, I wish that I had that vibrancy and that energy. And they can too.
Yeah.
You just have to find it. You have to be willing to fight for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my hope for all women, and actually for my daughter as well, is that you can embrace who you feel you want to be authentically, and that you don't feel like you need to be a certain way because you hit a certain age marker. I'm as much as I am in an arena where sometimes external beauty is the determining factor, I find interesting people to be beautiful, and whether that is an inner interesting, like they've got a unique outlook on life, or they've got a unique hobby or something that just makes them shine when they talk about it, I think that's when people look their most beautiful.
I think one of the best experiences just, of human existence is seeing someone talk about something they're passionate about, and seeing that light come to their face.
That's right.
That is timeless, that never leaves.
Absolutely.
Even the oldest people you can talk to, they're still going to be having those things that, brings them joy. And I think that's, all we have is our connection with other people.
That's
and
right.
the joy that we can bring to the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how old are you today?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't like saying my age.
Why?
Because I don't. So I say I don't know.
Oh. So when I was 16 years old, I guess I came down with a hefty case of of an eating disorder. After a couple months with that, I was sent to the hospital. I was on bed rest for 2 months, and you pretty much were too. You lived in the hospital with me. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but one thing you said to me when I was finally allowed to go outside in the wheelchair and have my heart monitor attached is, we were sitting on that bench, it was fall, it had that crispy fall air smell, and I was trying to email the mayor about how to solve homelessness because I thought that I had come up with a solution for how to solve homelessness in Toronto. And you said to me, before you save the world, you have to save yourself. And I think about that all the time.
That no matter who you were or where you came from, you would be welcome. You have no idea how much I wish that were true.
I guess I was saying fight for yourself, but meanwhile I was on the other end pushing you to fight for the world as well, because I knew if I couldn't give you something to live for, you fighting for the world was giving you purpose to fight for.
Why are you throwing stuff at me?
I wasn't supposed to make you cry. I guess beauty is different for me. I think even the way I raised you is what you do for other people and how you make other people feel. There's nothing more important when you walk into a room and somebody smiles at you because you're smiling at them. To me, that's beautiful because you've changed somebody's outlook. Not if I'm wearing jeans today or jogging pants today, or if I'm wearing this name brand clothes or that name brand clothes, or if I have 10 layers of makeup on. It's how you make somebody feel. That's beautiful. But you have to know as a parent to think, I raised this child right. Now she's a young woman, she needs to make her own decisions. But it's very hard as a parent to step back and watch you fall. But when you fall, you take 10 steps forward, so it's all good.
Not too long ago, I turned 21 years old, and I feel like I'm only just learning how to be human. For years, I have clutched onto a scale to measure my own currency, believing my worth would certainly plunder had I not fallen within a certain number. But now it's perfectly clear to see where my insecurity is rooted, and I have decided I will no longer be guided by the fear of looking stupid. There is no such thing as aging gracefully. This life is not about your hair and makeup. It's not about your laugh lines or your crow's feet. It's about the people you meet, the times you shared together, and how you made them feel. To be womanly is not to be silent, but to shout from rooftops, to claw your way through adversity, to allow your light to shine despite it all. Because no matter how hard the world tries to divide us, we will always be timeless.